Hello and welcome to In a Flash, a flash fiction reading series by Sweetycat Press. The co-sponsor of today's installment is Bruce Rowe. I'm Dave Gregory, and today I'll be reading a story by Gary S. Crawford entitled She Didn't Have a Name. The cemetery computer records show almost 15,000 burials over the years. The cemetery was established to hold those interments from a nearby church that had burned down and was to be rebuilt in another location. The earliest burials in the new cemetery dated to 1881, when those resting in the old churchyard were disinterred and brought to the new location, along with those new deaths that followed. A memorial park, rather than a church graveyard, welcoming the dead from any race, creed, and religion. Something new in its day. People from all walks of life rested together at the new cemetery. Rich and poor, white and black, Christian and Jew, policemen and criminals, singles and families, old-timers, young adults, and children, and babies. So many babies. The records show just how many. 120 who lived less than a year. 245 living less than a month. 402 who lived less than a week. 631 who lived but a day. 816 who survived less than a day. 1,532 who didn't live at all. Some were buried with their families. Most of those were given names. Some were buried alone, a few with names, and some were buried in one of 5 baby plots. The baby plots, where they had no names. Of almost 3,000 babies resting there, over a third had never been given a name. Some were listed as baby, with a last name, but at least they had a name. The old burial permits simply said baby girl or baby boy, along with a date and cause of death, stillborn or cord strangled, or any one of so many possible complications, so clinical, so cold. A baby listing in the old records pulls at me. Something tells me I have to go there and find this grave. I see the plot number, so I go to the cemetery to find the grave. It isn't easy to find, as it is overgrown and covered with vines and underbrush. But I find it. She is buried all by herself, this unnamed little girl. No family buried with her. She's all alone. Alone since 1934, the records say. But someone remembered her. There's a small cement lamb figurine there, worn smooth by over 80 years of erosion. The little lamb still guards the baby's grave. Who was your mommy, little one? Who was your daddy? Were you a long-awaited addition to the family? Did they decorate your new room for you? Were you loved? Were you wanted? Or were you a surprise, a byproduct of a lustful tryst? Would you be held close by your loving mother, or would she just shun you? Did she kiss you before they took you away? What would bring loving parents to forget to name you? Or didn't they care? Sweet, innocent child, who knows what you would have done with your world if you had lived? Would you have achieved greatness? Or live a mundane existence? Were there other siblings to share your childhood? Or would you have been lonely and alone? Were your parents rich? Or were they poor? 1934 was not a good year for so many. Would there have been enough food? A house to live in? If it were different, would you have lived to see your 80th year? Or would sickness or accident have befallen you in your younger days? Poor child with no name. I kneel before her grave and trim the overgrown brush away. I place a small bunch of flowers I picked by some graves nearby. Very pretty and smelling so sweet. Doesn't every little girl love flowers? I can't leave you without a name. It's not fair not to have a name. I look down at the cement lamb and decide to call you Mary. Mary had a little lamb. I smile as I kiss my hand and touch the lamb. Rest peacefully now, Mary. You finally have a name. I feel something around me, some kind of energy, a feeling of happiness, of someone smiling at me, all around me. Mary had a little lamb, its cement worn smooth and white. Mary finally has a name. Things are now all right. The lamb guards her grave, it does, for almost 90 years. Now that Mary has a name, there should be no more tears. The end. And that was She Didn't Have a Name by Gary S. Crawford. The co-sponsor of today's reading is Bruce Rowe. I'm Dave Gregory for Sweetycat Press.